Hi, I'm Rozie DeLoach, and this is my shop, Caraway Strings, out of Richardson, Texas.
Awesome.
Let's go inside. Okay,
Ooh.
so as we're recording this, it's almost June, and of course, we've had to alter things in the last few months, this year of 2020. A lot of times we've got this table outside with a little curbside pickup so that we're dealing with customers inside our shop as little as possible. But when we can have people in here, this is it.
So this is a very welcoming space. I like everything
Thank
about
you.
it. I like the color. I like
Thank you.
everything about it. So your protocol for taking incomings right now, you have a table out on the street,
Yeah.
and the instruments come in. Are they waiting for a little while, or?
And since you mentioned that, I'm going to lock this door.
Absolutely.
So it's the time of year where all the kids in school who are renting instruments are coming to turn them in for the summer. So if that's all they're doing, there's no need to have a family come inside. They can
Uh-huh.
just leave it on the table, sign a sheet, we can go pick it up and set it on a shelf. And for more involved things like repairs, we can have those people in this front room. And then we've got our separate back area where, if we need to, we can even like close the curtain. So we're a little bit more private back here. So that's what we're trying to do.
Awesome. And so when the instruments come in, are you letting them sit for like a quarantine amount of time, or are you digging
Um,
right into them?
we're, you know what? There was a time where we were doing quarantine, but since I have read about most of the contagious stuff passing just through droplets out of our mouths, then we're just careful about washing our hands. We're cleaning the instruments. And yeah, it hasn't been something that I feel as concerned about as I did early on now that we have more information.
Yeah, the information seems to have gotten out there, and
Yeah.
it's. I'm not saying relaxed is the way, but yeah, it seems
Yeah.
like a clear idea of not going to like DEFCON 0 with your
Yeah.
protocols is easier.
Yeah.
Can you flip the camera for me and just give me a little look around?
Okay. So yeah, that's the front. There's a window to the front room.
So you have
Uh,
kind of a partition there telling
mhm.
customers that beyond this point,
Yeah.
this is not your area to just come wandering back and
Yeah. Yeah.
asking what's going on.
And then over here, this is my showroom. And we have people sanitize their hands and wear masks if they're going to try anything, and they have to do it by appointment.
Okay.
But this little room is something I had built when I first moved in. It's just a freestanding room right in the middle. And whenever I'm not here, I can close the doors and lock the doors, but we're still open for business. We
Oh,
don't have to
cool.
have, all of this out in the open all the time. And I was lucky enough when we had the Violin Society of America come to Dallas this fall. A lot of really distinguished violin makers came through and signed their names.
Oh,
Uh,
that's fun.
so, yeah, that was just such a wonderful perk. I've got my co-host buddies. There's Chris Jacoby and there's Jerry Lynn. Those are the people that I'm on the air with all the time.
Uh-huh.
And whenever I'm doubting anything in the world, I look here and see that Sam Zygmuntowicz called. He signed his name on my door. So
Awesome.
that's one of the best makers in the United States. Makes me feel pretty awesome.
Yeah. So,
Um,
is there security on that door? Are those
we
doors like pretty secure?
they're pretty secure. We've got once I close this up, we've
Uh-huh.
got bars here that
Uh-huh.
also lock, and then you saw there's bars above as well.
Cool. So
Yeah.
you've got probably pretty good instrument specific insurance and all that.
You know what? We do have to do. What is their name? I am forgetting
Is
the
it
name of my insurance.
Heritage? I know Heritage.
Heritage.
We do
Yeah,
Heritage for guitars.
they're great. They specifically understand how we do this company, how
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that go out on loan and how to cover those things. I've had a great experience with them.
So you're grabbing riders as you need them, and
Yeah.
and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. Over here, we've got, this is kind of like a small repair area. This is light repairs. I have a college student that works for me, and they are usually stationed right over here.
Mm-hmm.
When I am in, this is my area. It's usually much messier than this.
Uh-huh. Oh, I feel special. You cleaned.
I
And so
clean.
I see
Uh-huh.
a mess of hair there. Are you a dual
Yes.
threat on bows
Yeah,
and
I do.
violins?
I do all the bow rehairs here.
Okay.
Yeah, keeps me
Oh,
busy.
I dabbled in bow rehair early on in my guitar apprenticeship, and
Yeah.
you just seeing that hair hanging there has given me a little PTSD reaction.
It's
So,
tricky, man. And look, oh, there's another one that just came in. Okay, I got more work to do. I got to take it
uh,
home with me. I did when we had to close our shop for 5 weeks. I moved all my bow stuff home, and so I've got a little workbench at home for those things. And
yeah,
you and I talked about having kids at home, and I've just got to be there more since there was no school.
yeah.
So that was helpful to do some of that work from home. And then over here, this is Duncan's area,
Uh-huh.
and he's does wonderful work. He's in the middle of a touch-up job right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's the varnish on that? Is that oil or spirit?
Let's see. He has got his little stuff out here. He
Uh-huh.
usually works with spirit when it comes to touch-up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that even with the oil finish, he'll touch up in spirit just because it's a little
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Well, because it just dries quickly,
Yeah.
and you can do several coats and then get it back to them.
Yep.
And if you want to know my favorite recent restoration job, and it's my job to get a new bridge on this guy now. It's moved on to me, but this is an old Roth that just recently sold, and Duncan did this repair right here where it was like very scratched up.
Oh yeah.
And I'll send you a picture that you can
I
add.
saw. Is it on your Instagram? I think I saw
It
it, and
is.
I'll go ahead and
Mm-hmm.
I'll go ahead and put that picture up during that so people
Yes.
can marvel at that. So is he also the bass? I see the bass next to his bench. Does he get bass duty?
Oh my gosh. Okay, you're gonna edit, so I'm gonna set this phone down again and pull this guy out. This
Uh,
is actually a student bass that we've been working on slowly. I'm sure you guys don't have those repairs that you're just gonna get to someday that just sit there. Okay.
I call them lurkers.
Yeah, this is one of my lurkers. So right here, you can tell I'm not as good at touch up as Duncan, but I'm getting there. I'm working on it. So this was like a jagged edge piece that had been knocked off of the base, and we had to basically reverse the crack. I can send you pictures of this as well. So this line right here is actually a diagonal inward curve.
Oh, cool! Yeah.
And this is a piece that we carved and put on. So there's like surface area to glue from here to here.
Yeah, so it's not just a butt joint.
Yeah, and then if it gets knocked again, it's not going to tend to crack off because the surface area is on the inside. So I still need to go in. I'm just going to draw purfling for this. I'm not going to install purfling because it's a student model. But that's the one thing that this poor bass is just waiting on. It's just waiting for me to draw 2 black lines.
Isn't it funny how certain jobs you just have to build up a head of steam on them? Like it just my wife is constantly, why aren't you just first in first out? And I'm like, I don't know. I wish I was.
Sometimes you just have to build up your, what's the word? You gotta get the momentum going in your brain before you're ready to go for it. Yeah. Back here on my shelves, these are a few of my turned in rental instruments. I've got some on both sides around the showroom. We are beyond out of space, so we clean this stuff up as quickly as possible and take it to storage and get it ready for the fall. And hopefully this fall we'll have a strong school rental program again. We will see.
So
And
this is your rental program. You bought
yeah.
all these instruments. You're managing the repairs on the instruments.
Hmm.
I worked for a guy in Santa Fe at a place called Santa Fe Violin and Guitar,
Hmm.
and it looked, uh, I wouldn't say miserable, but it looked challenging to manage a fleet of rentals.
Yeah. You know what? I started doing this in 2003,
Uh,
and when it was all I did. I learned the job well. I learned how to keep the teachers happy and find the instruments that are affordable enough to get beat up on a bit
mm-hmm.
and still perform well
And
for
still produce
students.
a decent note, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I honestly, I learned that the best before I learned how to do other stuff well, how to do fine repair and restoration. All the other stuff came after that. So it is its own set of challenges, but gosh, if you can swing it, then you have got money that you can count on year to year.
Yeah.
You can count like, okay, this time of year, this much is going to come in, like, and so you can um, control for a lot of other things and build from that. So I'm a fan.
Yeah.
If you can find a place to store it.
Plus you have a way to bring other people into the business and,
Hmm.
train and, there isn't a lot of that in guitar. There isn't that vehicle for
Yeah,
young people. Although all guitars are basically affordable compared to the violin world, but there
sure.
isn't there isn't a lot of that. I wouldn't call it low risk repair opportunities, but yeah, that kind of building your skills and
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and it's been helpful to build my clientele. Not every sixth grader goes on to become a fine violinist, but some of them do, and they end up wanting to invest in nicer stuff for
mhm.
themselves and get some good strings and nice repairs and keep things running properly. So it helps get the word out.
So I that's interesting too. The idea that even though people aren't going on to a professional career in symphonies and orchestras, people can have a lifelong relationship with the music that they were doing when they were kids and just keep building it for their own interest and stuff. Like,
Sure.
oh, are there like in your area, are there like adult, not professional orchestras, but like get-togethers where people play classical music and almost kind of like in the
Yeah.
bluegrass world, they like a jam or something like that?
We do have several different orchestras. Richardson is one of the suburbs in the greater metroplex of Dallas, and it's all just concrete everywhere. It's just cars everywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
we have opportunity for lots of communities like that. Some are more traditional. Just what comes to mind when you think of a like a concert orchestra, and we have one that's like the Dallas Asian American Youth Orchestra, which is uh, kids intermixing with professionals to do performances. We have the Orchestra of New Spain, which will do more like some Baroque style stuff, which is really fun. So we get to see a wide range of people on all levels. It's not just the really outstanding performers at the Dallas Symphony.
Cool. So do you play as well? Are you still in the
No,
game?
no, I can play a scale, and then I like to take them apart and tinker. It's so fun.
I
I
know.
I want to know how they work. I've tried picking up the violin several times, and I get a little bit too nitpicky about the setup or how the sound is working on this end of the violin versus this end, and I want to take them apart.
Yeah.
I get itchy fingers, and I think some people have a personality that's more toward performance on their instrument, and I just don't have that. I I would rather tinker.
Yep. So speaking of which, how did you get involved in this? Did you go to school? Did you do an apprenticeship? Were you a
Yeah.
self starter?
So my mother was an orchestra teacher
Mm-hmm.
in another suburb in the Metroplex, and my father, he worked in the police department, like setting up radio communications. So he was a
Mm-hmm.
tinkerer, but had nothing to do with this. And when he retired, he thought, you know what, I'll just buy some violins and rent them to kids. And that turned into a store. I remember being a
So with
teenager. Yeah, go
just
ahead.
just based on proximity to your mom, he
Mhm.
decided this was he was just going to go for it.
He just thought it would be a fun hobby.
Uh huh.
And that hobby turned into a store.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was really fun watching him have the agency to shape some of his own future, to go after, like, well, I want to make my shop this way, and I want to service these people, and I want to have these kinds of instruments. And I watched him get to make a lot of people really happy. And so I graduated with a degree in radio, film, television, and never used it until 2 years ago, uh, because I saw what he could do with being an entrepreneur and pursued that myself, even though we were such outsiders. We had no formal training. I tell people all the time, one of the things when you're repairing cracks, you'll do these like inside cleats,
Mm-hmm.
and we would just use parts of popsicle sticks to do it. we just didn't know.
Uh-huh.
And of course they were our own rental instruments. They were not, these are not for clients. But I've had to learn through the years how to take good care of these so they're lasting, 100 years from now.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially when they're your rental instruments, like your repairs have to,
mhm,
otherwise you're just repairing it again, and then you're
mhm.
losing that time.
Which I did.
Yeah. I have repaired my own repairs. I know
Yeah.
and yeah, there's a lot of learning that, like the gambling aspect of repair,
Yeah.
like a lot of my repair work is based on not gambling with my future time.
Right.
So
Right.
um,
Yeah, I had to learn the hard way on a lot of that stuff. And gosh, 3 summers ago now, I finally decided I'm going to take the plunge. I'm going to try to go to the Oberlin Restoration Workshop
mhm,
because I need to know better what's going on. I feel like there's only so much I can absorb from books and videos. And
mhm.
sure enough, I got there, and it wasn't just like the big things I didn't know. It was a lot of the little things, like the way that you set up your workbench and the quality of the tools. And it's been an amazing journey, just getting to know people who are working at that caliber and picking up some of that stuff myself and getting to an arena where I do feel competent doing higher end repairs.
It's I, yeah, the community thing, is that new in violins? Like, I get the feeling like in guitars we started kind of having this opening up of information. Although guitar repair is such a young, it's a very young idea anyway.
I'm sure it is.
It still feels like a made up job in a lot of ways. But the violin world, like those were some secretive people for a
You're right.
long time. Haven't is it new that
Um,
they're getting together and everybody's kind of having
uh,
this open source kind
it
of
is.
mentality?
It is. When I met the Chris Jacoby, who became my co-host of OMO, that was something he had railed against for years, and he's been in this industry a long time and made over 100 instruments, and always wanted it to be more open and inviting. And he experienced a lot of the old guard of people who have a little bit of information, but still have ego hurt and want to be
Hmm.
protective of their little bit of information. And he was not about that. So when he actually approached me about starting a podcast, since I had one, and that was what we wanted it to be about. We wanted to create a more inclusive, open environment for people where it's not about secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have to say it fortunately hasn't been my experience ever since I, did become a member of the Violin Society of America and went to Oberlin. I have a network of people now that I can just shoot a text to. What would you do about this repair on my workbench? And get some good counsel so I don't end up doing injury.
Yeah, I think that's what it takes. Like I've got a few friends like that, and even if we almost always agree, but just having that confidence that somebody else is, on the same page as you, like
Yes.
allows me to like move forward on projects that I might put on that back burner status and think I need to do more thinking than I actually need to do on them.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so Omo podcast, when did it start? When did you get the
Yeah.
idea for it?
So as I said, I was running another podcast, and I met Chris at Oberlin 3 summers ago now. And he started listening to my show, and just a few weeks after basically the summer camp
was your original show also Omo, and you've just
no,
opened it up to?
no, my original show was called Rabbit Hole Motel, and it was more about not so much fringe phenomena as the people involved in the weird stories, people who have had strange happenings and exploring them and their history. And that I love it to this day. I just don't have room to fit it in. but that was a really, really fun exploration, and I hope to continue at some point in the future. Omo is great. It has opened my eyes up to this whole community that I would not have gotten to be a part of. I would not have gotten to know, and the fact that they know me is pretty mind blowing.
Yeah, it's got to be a tremendous amount of work too. I'm doing these what are kind of like video podcasts, and I can't believe how much it takes me away from my work. Like it's fun. I'd love to transition to it full time, but I mean, because I'm pretty burned out on guitars at this point.
Yeah,
But it sure is fun talking to people about stuff. I mean, it actually fires me up. It's unburnt me out just a little bit.
Yes.
To talk to people.
Yes.
Especially when they tell me when things go bad too. Like when I get somebody else, I get that kind of Schadenfreude thing going on, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that happens to other people too. Like that feels nice for some reason.
Absolutely.
So,
we had a situation, I guess, in the early, I don't know, before the COVID mess, where we were just not being very tidy and had too many instruments out, and something fell on an instrument and made it fall on another instrument. And we had several more cracks in a violin that was a restoration project we were working on. It was our property. Moments like that, you know better.
Yeah.
Should have been simple.
Yeah, I scared the dog the other day because I fumbled my airbrush and got some lacquer on something that wasn't supposed to have lacquer on it. And,
on him?
What?
On him?
No, on another guitar. But I kind of had a little bit of a meltdown and scared the dog, and had some concerned voices come down from the stairs from my wife too. Like I'm working in a small space, and so in small spaces you have to have. You have to have it together and have your, just be very mindful all the time. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So, Omo podcast, and you guys have been, have you been doing that for like 2 years or 1 year?
Let's see. We've been planning it for 2 years, and January of 2019 was when our first episode aired. So we're in season 2, and feel like just now getting a feel for it. Got a sense for what we need to do.
It's amazing. I like it. Like I thought a lot about what I wanted to do with mine, and tried to pinpoint what it is that makes it so that I turn off most other luthier podcasts.
Mm.
And I think what it is it's mostly, I think most other luthier podcasts are actually kind of about the lutherie, but mostly it's about advertising the work to customers. And so when I hear
Yeah.
yours, I hear you're not afraid to bore civilians to tears in your podcast. Like you're doing this for you and for other
Yeah.
Luths, kind of like.
Yeah.
And that really translates well. Like there's enough self promotion out there. I think like kind of the community angle of it, I think is really special.
Yeah.
So you want to show? Is there anything more to see in the shop?
Um, Let's see. If we're coming to my workbench, you know what? And I've got several things that are just at home right now.
Uh-huh.
This is my tool area.
Oh, let's pull drawers. I love
Okay.
pulling drawers.
Okay, and it's all a mess right now, of course. I did just order these little lovely gouges
Oh,
because
beautiful.
because I am learning how to make my own violin. And so you need those for these nice little curves on the scroll. So this is number 1 that I did, and then here's the second one that
wow.
That I'm enjoying and feel good about. I got, this is always going to be my real one because it's got more flame to it.
Uh-huh.
And this one, not as much flame, but easier to carve. So practice one, you learn what to do and what not to do a little bit, and then we're moving on to this guy.
This is how they learn in schools, right? They just do that for a while, like just working on the scroll, correct?
Well, I'm the wrong one to ask.
Oh, okay. I love self-starting. I love it.
Thanks,
I love it because like you're probably going to find out some things that weren't in the books, I would imagine.
Well, as long as you stay curious and you continue pushing yourself. Yeah. Let's see. I've got a bunch of files here, big files, little files. At some point I'm going to learn how to use this guy to do to carve my little, what are we doing?
Purfling cutter?
Purfling. Yeah. This stuff right here. I'm going to like make the channel and then do the inlay. That's not my violin. That's just a rando.
Go back up.
Go back up?
Yeah. Were those guitar nut files there? The red handled? What are those?
Gosh, are they?
I can't tell. No, they're just little diamond files.
Yeah.
Okay,
just
cool.
Round files.
I saw the red handles and I thought it was Stu Mac for a second.
I've got a few small shoot. Yeah.
And you got some
I'm
reamers?
basically just letting these all get nicked up together right now. That was my goal. Just as many nicks as possible.
I wouldn't worry about it. You got good padding in there.
These are the reamers for my peg box.
Uh-huh.
I've got violin, viola, cello, and bass. And actually this is not for bass. These are for the end pins in cellos.
Yeah.
So the little thing at the bottom that they stand on.
That's like $17,000 worth of tapered reamers there, I would think.
No, it's not. It's not that much.
It looks like a lot to me, but yeah.
But sure, we'll just say that.
Okay.
I do have some nicer planes that are at home. I just bought like a few more gouges because my next step in my violin is going to be shaping the top and bottom plates. So I've got to get these all trued up perfectly, and then I can start
gouging away.
Start gouging away. These littler knives are more for cutting violin bridges because there's like this science to how you cut away wood. Got to measure it all pretty precisely.
I work with a violin guy in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
He was really good. and he's
Mm-hmm.
actually Santa Fe Violin. I think he's still there,
Mm-hmm.
but he would get done with his bridges, and I was just barely a guitar tech at that point. And go, look at this, look at what I've done. Very proud of his bridge, and all I saw was a violin bridge. Like I was like, what are you talking about, Kevin?
Like, no, it took a lot of work.
And I was like,
Um,
oh, all right, buddy. Oh, low angle, yeah.
this is my latest purchase that I'm loving. It helped me thin my ribs. And then I got a tooth blade as well for it, which helps me not tear out wood.
Yes.
I feel like I should go ahead and pull down my violin, honestly.
Yeah, let's see it.
Okay. Okay. So when you're building a violin, you've got to basically build this inside piece first.
Mm-hmm.
And then these inside blocks come next. And then this was the really fun part, was shaping these pieces of wood on a bending iron. Whew, it was fun. And then up here,
it's really a feeling of power, isn't it? Like you've got this straight piece of wood.
I loved it. These are not super symmetrical. I might have to carve some more. But yeah, you have to like thin this to about 1 millimeter.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get it a little bit damp, and then we just pull it around. Let's see, I'm just going to go up here. There's my bending iron.
Oh, wow.
And then this is the little like thing that you put behind that rib, and you pull with both hands.
Where did that bending iron come from? That is modern looking. I've got the old LMI one.
Honestly, I got it from Amazon.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. I had to build this base for it. Uh-huh. It didn't come with a base, which you don't want one of these without a base.
But it's got a digital digital readout and all that. Oh man, that's down.
But yeah, so you dampen the thing. You use 2 hands and pull, and you get a nice little bend. It is so fun. I like it. I want to bend ribs all day.
I built a few mandolins, and mandolins are much thicker ribs. My experience was not fun because when it frays out on the flame, it's infuriating because it's just But yeah.
Well, I gotta say the difference between 1 millimeter and 1.5, which is like what I first tried to do, I just immediately cracked the rib.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like getting them thin enough, then all of a sudden they'll cooperate.
Yeah. We tried all kinds of things with like steam tubes and stuff to get it more compliant. And yeah, I just wound up with a lot of burnt elbows and a lot of creative cursing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then down here, these are my 2 plates that I joined. So I've got the front and the back. So once these guys are glued in place, then we trace the form onto these guys, and then we start taking wood out and turning it into a violin. So that's my progress.
Is that what the digital calipers were for in the toolbox?
That can be, yes. And then I've got another set. I've got this guy. There's let's see. I have one like this that I use at home for small measurements, and then there's like a really big official one that like it's just like this giant U shape.
Yeah,
I'm trying to like gesture U shape. So then you can really get deep into the plates and get a perfect reading. So I should probably get one of those. Haven't bothered, but there's never enough tools, are there?
I don't think there are, and it's like it's as close as adults are going to get to that feeling of Christmas. Yeah. So okay, getting back to the drawers.
Okay, so this is stuff we use all the time, all day long. We have got like a little cheat sheet measuring guide for the distance the strings need to be on the bridge.
Yeah.
Little guides for how the bridge is supposed to be shaped. This is a really quick and easy way to set like a student bridge, especially like all the rentals.
Yep.
You can, hold on a second. Just a second.
I'm going to get so much experience editing. Oh.
So you can basically just get a piece of sandpaper and just do. Yeah.
Yes.
all the fine luthiers get a blade and they cut this by hand and they make it fit perfectly by hand.
It's infuriating.
Yeah.
I watched the guy in Santa Fe. I watched Kevin. I watched him do that, and I would just I'd throw stuff at him. I'd throw a Q-tip at him while he was doing it.
So these are cello and bass Soundpost setters, and that's going to be my widget that I show you guys later.
Okay.
I'm going to set a Soundpost for you guys. These are different versions of pegs, so they make the peg perfectly fit inside.
Can you actually make that infinitely variable one? Can you make that one work?
This one right here?
Yeah.
It does okay. Yeah.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the blade is really finicky on it. I find that the pegs will behave better if you line them in like some wax, even if it's just like candle wax.
Okay.
That'll kind of help them get started. Let's see what else. Okay. Tons and tons of clamps. Lots of clamps. We use so many clamps. And then this stuff right here is Instamorph.
Oh yeah.
And I love it. I love it, love it. So you can see this is like the inside of, or the back side of a scroll right here. So you can heat this up in water in the microwave until it turns clear. And then of course you want to like line your broken scroll with something like aluminum foil or plastic wrap or something, and just set it in there, and it's going to make a perfect mold. So you can clamp a top and a bottom. And then have a nice gluing surface.
Yeah.
I don't have a scroll with me, but like this will be, oh, well, I have one right there.
like if a scroll breaks off, you're able to fixture it and get it
so
glued
there's
back
like,
in.
Yeah, if there's a crack or something right here, and this of course is not a perfect fit because it wasn't made for this scroll, but you've got nice flat areas to clamp now.
Oh, that's great.
It's so lovely because, you know, there's so many areas on a violin that are just not going to clamp well. They're not going to fit well. And you want to create a good way to get those back together without causing further harm. And then, of course, for crack repairs, we have this, I don't even remember what this is called. This is just like a bendable plastic. So you don't end up damaging the varnish on the top of your plate.
But it still kind of like levels the crack just a little bit?
Yeah. This is just, you can use really thin stuff. And because you ultimately, when you are using like some hide glue, you really want to avoid getting it like sticking to any of these guys right here. So if you're using this along the top where the varnish is, it's going to help protect them, and it'll help protect them from like getting like a dent. That's this nice circle shape of a dent, which I've done before. Really fun.
That's a transferable skill into guitar repair too. That's like it's surprising how little force it takes to dent, you know, spruce with a finish.
For sure. And I have a really fun, let's see. Okay. This one right here is a really fun clamp. So if you have an inside block, like if this block comes loose from the ribs, you can insert this through there and pull it through tight and glue those pieces back together. Love this thing. I don't need to use it very often, but when I do, it's really fun.
Oh yeah.
And then let's see, do I have this one right here? So this one, if you've got some cracks on a top plate or a bottom plate, usually a top plate, so you can clamp those two sides together, and then you can screw it together a little bit closer. So, you know, you don't want to use a ton of force, but if it just needs that little bit of extra, this is really fun. We're trying to keep instruments around for 100 years, 200 years, ideally. The top plate, which is made of spruce, it's got lines going this way, and it is going to expand and contract, mostly contract over 100 years, at different rates than the side and the back, which are usually going to be made of maple. So what you get a lot of the time is this guy getting shorter from here to here. And so like a lot of like the seam will pull away from the side over here. And you'll get back here, you'll get like the ribs not quite fitting over a period of many, many years. A lot of people, when they're restoring, they'll end up taking in this this little piece at the end here. Gosh, I have too many things. They'll like carve away a little bit at both of these pieces and bring it in to make it fit. But of course, as little as possible. What was that, Ian?
I've had to do that on a couple archtop guitars.
Really?
Let the sides loose from, and I actually stole the idea from on Gibsons. You get a lot of that side pooch where you got like crazy flame maple, and the ribs just go crazy. And you know, a lot of guys will humidify it and push everything back together, but it always fails. And it seems like the right move, even though it's a total pain, is to break that joint at the tail block and shorten the ribs just a little bit so that it's so it's relaxed.
Well, if you're adding moisture, you're only temporarily fixing it.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is make all those pieces fit in a calm and stable way, and not force it.
Unless you like moving towns to move away from your reputation, you know, like.
Yeah.
Which I've had to do, by the way. Anyway.
Did it work?
Well, you know, my phone doesn't ring, so, you know.
Congratulations.
I know.
All right, you want to see?
Yeah, let's keep going on the draws.
Okay, I just had started on this one. This one's kind of a junky mess, but I've got my fun saws here when I want to cut big pieces of things.
Yeah.
These are some cross braces.
Oh yeah.
Which they're just made of copper. They're not very heavyweight.
Yeah.
They just add like a little bit of sideways tension.
Yeah.
So you know, if I'm trying to join a crack, first of all, it won't work down here. It's got to go across like some wide points. But if I've got a crack like here, then I can kind of push those two guys together a little bit, and then these pieces right here will get really close to the crack and get them lined up really well.
Oh, look at those.
So we can get the right arch that we're looking for.
Yeah.
But again, you want it really almost already there. You don't want to force something that doesn't want to fit, because that's not going to work long term. And then here I got a bunch of old used cello bridges, and then I've got new bridge blanks. So if anybody's never seen a cello bridge blank before, so this is what you start out with. You order the blank, and then you make the feet match exactly to the top of the plate, and you make the height match exactly. So it's a certain clearance over the fingerboard. And then there's lots of other little aesthetic things that you can do that go beyond just like a rental cello setup. And we've got, you know, extra Soundposts, because you never know when you're going to need a rando Soundpost all over the place.
So are those Soundposts you've pulled out of other instruments, or are those Soundposts?
Yeah.
Cool.
I've pulled them out of rental instruments, so they're not super high end. But when I'm trying to make a nice custom Soundpost, I'll cut them out of some Soundpost stock. They want you to have like a certain thickness to your grain for it to really carry a powerful tone. And these, I guarantee, don't have that. In fact, you can even see like this cheap cello Soundpost stock right here. It's like got curvy lines going on. It's not super straight. And those, well, that one's a good one. But a lot of them will have much wider grain to it.
So are those ones that the instrument shifted and it just wasn't, those ones didn't fit the instrument anymore, and you had to make a new one?
that happens a lot. You'll have a violin that's a few years older, and all of a sudden it's basically opened up. So when people say an instrument opens up, it's literal as well as figurative.
Uh-huh.
And the this Soundpost that fit perfectly, it's suddenly just a slight amount too short, just a millimeter, but it's not going to carry the same power that it had before. So we can
Or
fit a new
probably even
Soundpost in it.
stand up.
Yeah, well, you can scoot it further out,
Oh yeah.
but then it's not in the right place to have the right power. So yeah, and then let's see, here's some bass bar stock
Uh-huh.
for replacing bass bars. And then we've got like random pieces of like ebony, like old nuts, things like that, old in buttons. You never know when you're gonna need some stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
exactly. We try. Um, so yeah, that's all that. And then the shelf below it is just like your basic tools. Nothing really special. Like just like there's a bunch of old screws and things and
And some strap clamps and stuff.
yeah. Yes.
Do you have power tools? Do you have a bandsaw or any?
So um I have what's kind of like it's a heavy tools room, but it's not that heavy. Back here we've got there's a bandsaw right here for when we gotta cut pieces of things. Over here is where you can imagine that my Tormek is, but my
Uh-huh.
Tormek is at home. But this is where we have a sharpening station.
Okay.
And then over here, we've got like a few sanding machines
Uh-huh.
and at like the most like lightweight ever. What's it called? I can't even remember what.
Drill press?
Yeah, yeah, like just like almost a toy drill press.
Uh-huh.
Yes, a lot of this stuff is on my shopping list to replace, but
Yeah.
we're getting there.
Well, I think violin people historically hide anything with a cord, so
Yeah.
like it's okay. It's
No,
okay to have.
you need some of these things, or you're going to ruin your back. You're going to ruin your neck. You need to have some stuff to do the work for you.
Speaking of which, I want to talk about violin techs always sit down to work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big I've always stood, and I'm very particular about my bench. Do you find that the sitting and hunching over a violin is
Well,
hard on your neck or your back or?
yeah. You know what? A couple of years ago, I went to the hospital with the worst shoulder pain I'd ever had in my life. And I have
Oh my
had a
God.
child. And I have since learned that when you go to the ER and they ask you your pain level, you don't say level 10
Yeah.
because they don't believe
They
that
don't
you're
believe
really,
you.
yeah.
They think you're
So
just there for the drugs, don't they?
piece of advice, don't say 10 because they'll think, oh, well, if I cut your arm off, is that also a 10?
Well, that's fair.
It was the most pain I'd ever been in my life. And I have since learned that it's not because I was picking up my kid who grew a little bit every year. I thought I'm throwing out my shoulder because I keep picking up my kid and she keeps getting bigger. No, it's because I was getting some disc deterioration from looking down over my workbench. So since that time, I'll flip again. What I have gotten is this is just a simple IKEA stool that's adjustable. So I can bring it up and down. I do some things standing and some things sitting, but I'm just really careful to watch my neck when I'm doing stuff. It helps a lot with not only that, but just, I don't know if, Ian, you ever get like numbness in your fingers?
Not so far.
Good.
But I've herniated a disc in my back, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many times now, and it was from early on in my career working on just crazy low benches.
Yeah, it'll mess your head or mess your back up really fast. I don't know. I have clearly I don't use it very much. I have something somewhere where I can set it on my bench and it brings it up. It's like a higher surface. So basically, whatever I can do to bring things closer to my face, I make sure like every workbench has an adjustable light so we can get the light
Mm.
right up to us, and we're not having to lean over and find the light. So whatever I can do to do that. I at least know now to listen to my body. And if I'm waking up with my fingers numb every morning, then
Yep.
I need to start being more careful about what's going on with my neck and my back.
Yeah, my back has this varying degrees of middle finger it's giving me, and I got to listen to it. It also means I
Yep.
got to get out and get exercise too. Like
Uh-huh.
like that's definitely a part of it. Like if I want to dance the dance on a workbench, I got to go out and get
Yeah.
my core strong and try to lose some weight, which is it just gets harder every year. But
Right.
the I was going to say, Fine Woodworking magazine a number of years ago had a bench issue, and they had a whole thing on bench height.
Oh,
And
yeah.
their thing, it reminded me of what you were saying about having something to bring the work up to you, which I've just done on my own bench. I made a bench pad because I can't swing the guitar and not hit the ceiling in some circumstances. But they were definitely like three different bench heights. Like
Yeah.
they would have, like, if they were working on a dresser, they would have a bench height for that. And, but yeah, it was also all based on not having your vertebrae in that little open position to where you're putting stress on one end of the vertebrae and then
Yeah.
creating a gap on the other,
Yeah.
or on the disc. So
And I've since learned like your pain will lie to you, because my deterioration was up here
yeah,
from doing this a lot, but my pain was right back here.
yeah,
And it every time I breathed, I would have like basically my muscles would seize up.
yeah.
I couldn't get to a calm place. But I haven't had that shoulder pain, gosh, months and months and months now.
Hmm.
I still wake up with numb fingers sometimes,
Yeah.
but I've learned how to just keep an eye on that and make sure that I'm not just killing myself. Oh, and just having better tools.
Yeah,
That helps a lot.
that does help a lot.
Yeah.
My back thing is I basically get to crawl to the bathroom for a week and lay on the floor for a week. That's what happens when mine goes out. It's like, yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
It's but yeah, it's not to like, oh boy, you just told a horrific story, let me one up you. But
No.
I was just remembering that the last time my wife made me go to the hospital, and I was like, they aren't going to do anything. And sure enough, I got there through like a lot of trouble to get in and out of the car and into a wheelchair and in there, and they're like, so your back hurts, huh? Here's some ibuprofen, go
Yeah.
home.
Yeah, here's some aspirin.
And I wasn't even like in my 20s and looking like I was drug seeking or something, like they were just like, we're not giving you anything powerful.
Yeah.
So, and that, fair enough. I don't like that stuff anyway, but
Yeah.
Let's see. So we're on to what's your widget, right?
I'm ready. Let's
Are
do
you?
it.
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
I was really trying to overthink this, and then it occurred to me 101 violin setup, Soundpost setter. So a little background if people are not familiar. So again, we've got the top plate right here. Your bridge sits right here, right in the middle of the instrument. And so underneath, what's going on one bridge foot is your bass bar. So that spreads the sound waves this way. And then we also, I showed you some Soundposts earlier. Underneath the other bridge foot is your Soundpost. So that gives it some rigidity and helps connect it to the back plate, which will also vibrate. So if you ever knock a Soundpost down, and I will demonstrate the sound that you'll hear, then you're just not going to get the same tone quality at all. It's not going to reverberate the same way. It's not going to project outside of the box as well. There's been like hundreds of years going into like the perfect placement of a Soundpost. And, old instruments like pre-violin, the bridges, some of them were built where this foot right here would just go right through this hole and all the way to the back plate. So
Really?
yeah. I think some like Kruths, perhaps. I hope I'm getting that detail right. But I've seen like that was one way of figuring that out. But over time, we figured out if we take the Soundpost and we move it like a little bit behind the bridge, not right underneath it, but behind, it kind of helps this bridge do like a rocking chair motion, like it pivots, and it really helps fill the cavity and as well.
Plus, so, you resonate in the back a little bit too, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. So this is just one of my basic rentals, and I've got my Soundpost up, and if it ever gets knocked down, it sounds like this. So that's
speaking of PTSD, oh my God, that sound.
And so we've got to get this guy out of here, and the best way for it to come out is right through one of the F holes, and I usually just lift it up above my head and pull that sucker right out. So this is your guy, and the trick to this guy is you want it to be tall enough where it's going to sit in just the right place. You don't want it too much this way or too much this way. And then as you can see, there's angles, so it makes full contact with the top and bottom plate.
Okay.
So when you get it in, it can't go in this way or this way. It has to be exactly one way and make that full contact. So for me, you get this guy on here. And for me, I'm going to get it through that F hole without letting it dislodge from the Soundpost setter. And it's up.
Cool.
And if you have your instrument apart and have the N button out, you can actually look inside and make sure that it's going to be straight up and down and not leaning. You want it to be straight up and down this way, straight up and down this way. Your bridge is usually going to go right where those little insets are along the F hole, just right across there. And then your bass bar is going to, or your fingerboard, what am I trying to say? Your Soundpost is going to go a few millimeters lower than that.
Okay.
And of course, there's little variations. If you want the high end to perform a little bit better, you can move it a certain way. If you want the low end to perform a little bit better, you can move it a certain way. But that's a general rule of thumb. Soundpost setter, right here.
Awesome. Do you think that you could hold the end pin up to the camera? Do you think we'd be able to see it? I don't know if we'll be able to see it.
Let's try. So there's your end button.
Oh, you can see it. You can totally see it.
You can.
Yeah.
There it is in there.
Oh my God. Can you tilt it just up and down just a little bit so we can see the it
like that?
Making contact with the top and the bottom? Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I had to lighten just the right place for it. So
awesome. God, I feel like I had I had a couple more questions. One was, do you know anything about the history of the term luthier? I know violin people use the term luthier, but wasn't the violin first? Is violin the Italian word for squeaky lute? I don't know what the etymology on that term is and how violin people.
I wish I could say I knew. All I can tell you is that some people insist on saying luthier because they're fancy, and I think that's the Italian way of pronouncing it.
Is it? I had a very rustic guitar client who would call me a luthier, and I thought he was just like he was taking it upon himself to get extra fancy. Hey, you're my luthier.
But I'm a fan of loothing. I think that should be our term going forward, Ian.
it's got to have that part of speech, right? Like it's like and something about spelling it with the two O's, I think brings it back down to the back down to earth. I feel like a tradesperson, and I would like to be kind of more referred to as such rather than some kind of like mystic or whatever it is that people are looking for when they visit people like us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm about getting paid. Like,
I don't know. I like being mystical. I'll take it.
Yeah, you be a mystic. We'll get.
Yeah, I'll be a mystic. Like
Wizard
I
robes
can
and
read the soul of your violin, and this is what it needs.
oh my god, oh my god. So I was calling my show Timbre Alert because I get so tired of the word tone. Like I just like I
Mm.
we hear that a lot in guitars. Like I'll fix a crack on a guy's guitar and he'll say, well, "How's that going to affect the tone?" And I'll be like, "Adversely."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Your guitar's cracked.
Yeah.
Probably not to where you would notice. I'm not going to notice, but
Yeah.
yeah, technically, probably adversely.
One of the repairs we do is called a Soundpost patch. And that
Yes.
is when a crack has formed right where the Soundpost goes. And the only way to properly fix it is to take this circle of material out and then perfectly match it, like chalk fit it with another piece of spruce. It's tricky, but people are always, they're like, well, how does that affect the tone? And well, you know what? Your option is to have a violin that doesn't work. So,
Uh-huh.
do you want to use that money on another instrument, or do you want to invest it in this
Exactly.
guy? That's
You
really
ever
the question.
do you ever pull out the pictures of the inside of the Strads and show them what some of the Strads look like? Because those are cobbled together on the inside, aren't
Yeah,
they?
almost all of them have Soundpost patches. Yeah,
And like 100 cleats.
and cleats. Yeah, cleats galore. A lot of them will have blocks replaced. They all have necks replaced if they have a modern set.
Yeah.
So they'll change the neck and fit the old scroll onto a new neck. So it still has the same aesthetic. But since what is it, 1830 something, we set A at 440, and all the necks had to be changed. So anything before that doesn't have an original neck.
So is the Soundpost patch, is that like the thing that violin repair people measure themselves against? Like is that like a really good, is it like the toughest
I just mentioned the replacing neck and then adding the old scroll.
uh-huh.
I've seen people do it, and that looks so tricky. I don't know how to do it. I mean, I really think it's everybody has certain strengths and weaknesses on what they can do. I feel good about doing a Soundpost patch. I feel less good about doing touch-up work.
Yeah.
My workbench buddy over here, Duncan, he's fantastic at touch-up work. Really, you are just always continuing to learn, and I have to, whatever work comes my way and comes to my workbench, I either need to learn how to do it properly, or I need to refer them to somebody else who can do it properly. That's my responsibility.
Yeah.
So, I feel good about Soundpost patches. I feel good about doing bass bars. A lot of the internal stuff I feel really good about. But Jerry Lynn, one of our co-hosts, he does such amazingly intricate work that a lot of times I can't even begin to understand. He's chalk fitting all day, like just little pieces that have worm damage that have been eaten away. And he's precise to such a degree that's incredible. So it just, we've all got our different skill sets, and we're all trying to take care of these guys in different ways.
I think that's a really good attitude. It's something I've had to develop even in the guitar thing. Like really early on when I was young, I wanted to be all things to all people and all repairs and stuff like that. And it was just an exercise in constantly wiping dog shit off my shoes because I was just always getting myself into trouble. And as I've gotten older, I don't know if it's acquiescence to the idea or if it's just taking a break from beating myself on the head with a hammer. But I'm getting to the point where I'm very selective. I'm saying no to some things and begrudgingly referring them to people that are better than me at certain things.
If you can get them in good hands, you're doing the best thing for that instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shame in that.
Well, I'm going to leave it there. And I hope that we get to do a follow-up, but I want to come back when you've got a shop bustling full of people, and I want to meet all your
Yeah,
coworkers and employees and all that kind of good stuff too.
I have the best employees. I would love to introduce them.
Awesome. Rozie, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Take care.
Take care, Ian. Bye.
Bye.